What if I told you that saving every single penny you earn could actually make you completely broke? In a small village, an old man named Aiden did exactly that. He had boxes of gold under his bed, inside his walls, and in his garden. He wore rags and ate stale food just to watch his pile grow. But one freezing winter night, he realized his mistake in the most painful way possible. Today, we're going to look at a powerful story about two completely different men, a hidden treasure, and the single greatest investment you will ever make in your life. Watch until the very end, because the lesson in this story might just change how you look at your future forever. Let's begin. The richest man in the village. Once upon a time, in a small, beautiful village, there lived a man named Aiden. The village was a warm and friendly place. Neighbors talked over their front gates, shared sweet treats during big festivals, and rushed to help whenever someone was in trouble. But Aiden did not join in. He was known by everyone as the biggest miser the village had ever seen. To Aiden, nothing in the world mattered except money. He did not care about friendship, comfort, or joy. He only cared about his coins. Every evening, while other families sat together to eat dinner and laugh, Aiden locked his heavy wooden doors, shut his windows tight, and pulled out his secret boxes. He had coins hidden everywhere, under his squeaky bed, inside the cracks of his mud walls, and buried deep in the soil of his overgrown garden. He would count them one by one, listening to the sharp clinking sound of the metal. That sound was the only music he loved. Because he hated spending money, Aiden lived a very hard life. He wore the same old, torn clothes for many years until they were nothing but rags and patches. He refused to buy fresh vegetables, milk, or meat. Instead, he walked to the village market at the very end of the day to buy the cheapest, oldest food he could find, usually just stale bread and water. During the heavy summer monsoon season, the sky would turn dark and pour water for days. Aiden's roof developed big holes, and rainwater dripped into his rooms. Instead of paying a builder to fix the roof, Aiden simply went around his house and placed old plastic buckets under the leaks. Drip, drop, drip, drop. The buckets filled up fast. When his neighbors asked why he didn't just fix the holes, Aiden would shrug his thin shoulders and say, "Why waste good money on repairs? The buckets catch the water just fine. It cost me nothing to empty them." The people in the village felt very sorry for him. They saw a man who had thousands of coins but lived like he had nothing at all. One sunny afternoon, a kind neighbor named Kamala stopped by his gate. She saw him trying to stitch his shoes together with an old piece of string. "Aiden," Kamala said with a sad sigh, "what is the point of saving all that money if you choose to live like a beggar? Money is meant to help you live a good life." Aiden stopped his work, looked up, and patted the small, heavy cloth pouch tied to his waist. He smiled a small, secret smile. "You just do not understand, Kamala. You will all see one day. One day, I will be the richest man in this entire village, and all of you will wish you had saved your coins just like me." Years of saving, years of suffering. Many years passed by. The trees in the village grew taller, children grew into adults, and Aiden's secret boxes grew much heavier. His pile of money grew bigger and bigger every single month. But as his wealth increased, his life became worse. Because he refused to spend money on a proper mattress, he slept on a very thin, dusty mat on the hard, cold floor. Over time, his back became permanently bent, and he walked with a painful slouch. Because he refused to buy proper oil lamps or candles, he worked and read his financial records by the tiniest, dimmest candlelight. Soon his eyes grew weak, and he had to squint just to see his own fingers. Most of all, his stomach always hurt. Eating stale bread, rotten grains, and drinking bad water for years took a heavy toll on his body. He was constantly tired, his skin looked gray, and he had no energy. Yet, even when he could barely stand up, he refused to spend even a single copper coin to buy a fresh bowl of hot soup or a piece of sweet fruit. To Aiden, a coin spent was a coin lost forever. The wise young wanderer, One bright morning, a young wanderer named Amos arrived in the village. Amos was a completely different kind of person. He was bright-eyed, tall, and full of positive energy. If you looked at his simple, faded clothes, you could tell he was not a rich man. He did not own land or a big house. In fact, he carried everything he owned on his back, a small cloth bag and a beautiful wooden flute. However, Amos was incredibly wealthy in a different way. He was a learned young man who had traveled to many places. He knew how to read and write complex books. He understood the secrets of nature and knew which wild herbs could heal a fever or soothe a pain. He was good with his hands and could fix broken tables, doors, and roofs. And when he played his wooden flute, the music was so sweet that even the birds would stop flying to listen. Amos liked the quiet village, so he decided to stay for a while. He rented a small, simple room right next door to Aiden's dark house. Every morning, Aiden would sit by his window and watch his new neighbor. Aiden did not like what he saw. He watched with great disapproval as Amos walked to the market and spent his daily earnings on fresh, creamy milk, sweet yellow mangoes, and warm, nutritious food. "What a foolish boy," Aiden would mutter to himself, shaking his head. Wasting his hard-earned money on such temporary luxuries. He will have nothing left for his future. But as the weeks went by, Aiden noticed that Amos did not just spend money on food. Amos spent money on other things too. Books. Every evening, Amos sat outside and read large books under a bright lamp to learn about history, science, and languages. Tools. He purchased heavy iron hammers, saws, and chisels to practice carpentry and woodworking. Materials. He bought bags of smooth clay and spent hours practicing how to shape beautiful, strong pots. Education. He even paid a small fee to an old, wise teacher in the village to learn the advanced secrets of farming and running a business. Aiden could not keep quiet any longer. One evening, as Amos was sitting outside, sharpening his carpentry tools, Aiden walked over to the fence. "Young man," Aiden called out in a sharp voice, "why do you waste your precious money on all these things? Books, tools, clay lessons. Once the money is gone, it is gone. You are throwing your future away." Amos stopped sharpening his tool. He looked up at Aiden and smiled warmly, his eyes shining with kindness. "I'm not wasting my money, Uncle," Amos replied gently. "I'm investing in myself." "Investing in yourself?" Aiden laughed bitterly. "What nonsense." "It is true, Uncle," Amos explained. "Every book I buy and read makes my mind wiser. Every new skill I practice makes me more valuable to the world. Every healthy meal I eat gives my body the strength to learn, think, and work harder. The absolute best investment anyone can ever make is not in a bank or a box. It is in themselves." Aiden waved his hand in the air angrily, dismissing the young man's words. "Foolish, childish words. The only real investment is saving hard cash. Keep it safe, hide it well, and watch the pile grow. That is what keeps you safe in this world." Amos looked at Aiden's bent back, his pale skin, and his torn clothes. He felt a deep sadness for the old man. "But Uncle," Amos said softly, "what good is a pile of money if your body is too sick and weak to enjoy it? What good is wealth if you do not have the skills to protect it, or the knowledge to use it to bring peace to your life?" Aiden turned around sharply. "Go back to your flute, boy," he snapped, and he hurried back inside his dark house to count his coins once again. Two different paths. As the months rolled by, the two men continued to live their lives in completely opposite ways. And slowly, the result of their choices began to show clearly for everyone to see. Amos's strategy of investing in himself started to pay off in amazing ways. Because he had spent time learning to read and write perfectly, the village leader hired him to keep the official records of the village grain stores. This gave him a steady, respectful job. Because he had spent money on tools and practiced carpentry, The villagers gladly paid him good wages to fix their broken furniture, doors, and creaking stairs. Furthermore, because Amos understood the power of natural herbs, families came knocking on his door whenever a child had a cough or a stomach ache. He would create natural medicines to heal them. And finally, because he played the flute so beautifully and was always so cheerful, he was invited to every single wedding, birthday, and festival in the area. At these events, he met important merchants, farmers, and leaders from other towns. He made valuable connections and strong friendships wherever he went. Amos saved a portion of the money he earned, but he never stopped spending on his own growth. He used his new earnings to buy even better tools. He bought advanced books and even took short trips to the large nearby city to sit with master craftsmen and learn from them. With every single investment he made in his own mind and body, his value as a professional grew, and because his value grew, his income naturally increased too. He was happy, healthy, and moving forward every day. Meanwhile, Aiden's path was going downward. His complete neglect of his health was catching up to him. His house was damp. Because of the leaky roof, the air inside was cold and stale, and his body was starving for real vitamins. The heavy cost of neglect. One terrible night, during a cold stretch of winter, Aiden became severely ill. A burning high fever took over his frail body. He lay on his thin floor mat, shivering violently under a single sheet, unable to even lift his head to get a sip of water. He was completely alone in the dark. Seeing that Aiden's windows had stayed shut for 2 whole days, Kamala and the village doctor decided to break open the door to check on him. The doctor stepped into the dark, damp house and shook his head in shock. He quickly checked Aiden's pulse, felt his hot forehead, and listened to his heavy, rattling chest. Aiden opened his weak, blurry eyes. "Doctor," he whispered, his voice cracking. "Am I going to die?" The doctor sat down next to him. "Aiden, you are very, very sick. The cold and dampness of this house has infected your lungs, and your body is incredibly weak because you do not eat proper food. You need serious help. You need strong medicine. You need nutritious food like fresh milk and hot soups every day, and you must hire someone immediately to fix this broken roof. The damp air is killing you." Aiden gripped his blanket tightly. His heart raced with fear, not fear of the sickness, but fear of the cost. "How much?" he whispered weakly. "How much will all of that cost me?" The doctor calculated for a moment. To buy the medicines, the proper food, and to pay a carpenter to fix the roof properly, it will cost about 500 silver coins. 500 coins! Aiden screamed out, though the effort made him cough painfully. 500. Never. That is a fortune. That took me months to save. I will not pay it. I am strong. I will get better on my own. Leave me alone." The doctor sighed deeply, stood up, and left the house. He knew he could not force a miser to save his own life. But Aiden did not get better on his own. Without medicine and food, his body had no power to fight the illness. Days turned into weeks. For 3 long, agonizing weeks, Aiden lay in his bed, suffering from terrible pain, sweating through hot fevers, and coughing until his chest burned. He could not count his money. He could not walk. He was trapped in a living nightmare. Finally, after 21 days of pure torture, Aiden realized that if he did not spend the money, he was truly going to die. With tears running down his old face, he dragged himself to his secret hiding place, pulled out his coins, and sent word for the doctor. But because he had waited so long, the sickness had spread much deeper into his body, and the holes in his roof had grown much wider from additional storms. The doctor looked at him and said, "Because you waited 3 weeks, the medicine must be twice as strong, and the damage to your house is much worse. It will not cost 500 coins anymore, Aiden. It will cost you 1,000 silver coins." Aiden felt like his heart was being torn out of his chest. He had to hand over a massive bag of 1,000 shining coins just to stay alive. All those years of starving himself, wearing rags, and living in discomfort to save that specific money were wiped away in a single moment. The visit. It took a very long time for Aiden to recover. For weeks, he could only sit quietly by his open window, wrapped in a blanket, watching the world go by. Every single day, he watched Amos. He saw Amos walk down the street with a smile on his face, greeting everyone by name. He saw how healthy and strong Amos looked. He saw people respect Amos, ask him for advice, and gladly hand him money for his excellent carpentry work and record-keeping. Aiden sat in the silence of his room and thought deeply about his life. He looked at his empty hands. He looked at the boxes that still held money but couldn't give him a healthy back, clear eyes, or a happy heart. One quiet evening, there was a soft knock on Aiden's door. It was Amos. In his hands, he carried a large, steaming ceramic bowl of fresh vegetable soup mixed with healing herbs. "Good evening, Uncle," Amos said with a gentle smile. "I heard from the neighbors that you are finally sitting up and feeling a bit better. I made this hot soup for you to help you get your physical strength back." Aiden looked at the young man. This was the same young man he had laughed at, mocked, and called a fool for months. Yet, here he was showing genuine kindness and care. Slow, heavy tears filled Aiden's weak eyes and rolled down his wrinkled cheeks. "Amos," the old man said, his voice trembling with emotion. "I've been such a blind, stubborn fool." Amos set the warm bowl of soup down on the table. He sat down on a wooden stool near Aiden. "No, Uncle," he said softly. "You're not a fool. You're just a man who forgot something very important." Aiden wiped his eyes with his torn sleeve. "What did I forget, Amos? Tell me." Amos looked into the old man's eyes and spoke with deep conviction. "You forgot that you were your own greatest asset. You thought your assets were the coins hidden under your bed and buried in your dirt. But money is just a tool. It comes and it goes. It can be spent, it can be lost, or it can be stolen. But your skills, your knowledge, your wisdom, and your physical health, these are the things that stay inside you forever." Amos stood up and gestured to himself. "Look at the two of us, Uncle. I spent my money on myself. Yes, my pockets are not overflowing with thousands of hidden coins. But look at me. I am healthy. I am full of energy. I have learned many valuable skills. I earn a very good living every day, and I'm deeply happy. You, on the other hand, saved every single coin. But you became terribly sick. You had no skills to fall back on when you couldn't move, and in the end, you had to spend a massive part of your savings anyway just to fix the damage caused by your own neglect." Aiden closed his eyes tightly. The truth of Amos's words cut deep into his heart, but he knew it was the exact truth he needed to hear. He had spent his whole life serving his money, instead of making his money serve him. "Amos," Aiden whispered, opening his eyes, looking small and fragile. "Look at me. I am old, my back is bent, and my health is broken. Is it too late for me to change?" Amos smiled a bright, beautiful smile that lit up the dark room. "It is never too late, Uncle. Not as long as you are breathing. You still have money saved in your boxes. Do not let it sit idle in the dirt anymore. Use a small part of it wisely. Use it to rebuild your health. Use it to learn something new, and use it to bring comfort and joy back into your daily life." A beautiful transformation. From that memorable day forward, Aiden became a completely changed man. He decided to trust the young man's wisdom and put his philosophy into practice. First, he hired the best builders in the village to completely fix his roof. They replaced the rotten wood, sealed the holes, and made his house warm, bright, and completely dry. The annoying buckets were finally thrown away. Next, he began spending money every single week on high-quality, nutritious food. He bought fresh milk, green vegetables, sweet fruits, and clean grains. As he ate well, a miracle happened. His skin lost its gray color, his stomach stopped hurting, and he began to regain his physical strength. He traveled to the nearby town and visited an eye doctor who gave him a pair of clear reading glasses. For the first time in 10 years, Aiden could see the world sharply without straining his eyes. But the biggest change of all was inside his mind. Aiden approached Amos with a small bag of coins and asked for a favor. "Amos, will you please accept this fee and teach me how to read and write? I never learned when I was a boy because I thought working for money was the only thing that mattered." Amos happily agreed, but refused to take the money. Instead, they made a friendly deal. Every afternoon, Amos would come over to teach Aiden how to read letters and write sentences. In return, Aiden used his long life experience to teach Amos advanced strategies about business, trade, and financial budgeting. As Aiden invested in himself, something truly magical happened to his life. Health. His physical strength returned, and his mind became sharp and clear. Joy. He discovered the absolute wonder of reading books, finding immense joy in ancient stories and world history. Community. He learned basic carpentry from Amos and began walking around the village, helping neighbors fix small things like squeaky gates or loose shelves. He charged only a tiny fee, using the opportunity to chat, laugh, and make true friends along the way. The money that had sat uselessly in dark boxes under his bed for decades was finally out in the open, working actively for him to create a beautiful, meaningful life. Within a year, the villagers could barely recognize Aiden. He was a completely different human being. He still understood the value of saving money. He did not waste it wildly, but he finally understood the true meaning of balance. He realized that being the richest man in the cemetery meant absolutely nothing if you lived your life sick, ignorant, cold, and lonely. Truly wealthy. One beautiful summer evening, Aiden and Amos stood together on a hill at the edge of the village, watching a gorgeous golden sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange. The air was warm, and a gentle breeze was blowing through the trees. Aiden looked at the village below, then turned to look at the young man who had changed his life. "Thank you, Amos," Aiden said softly, his voice full of peace. "You taught me the most valuable lesson a person can ever learn. The best and most profitable investment in this world is not found in iron boxes buried deep in the ground. The best investment is the one we make in ourselves, in our physical health, our minds, our skills, and our human spirit." Amos smiled and placed a warm, supportive hand on the old man's shoulder. "And now, Uncle, look at you. You have health, you have knowledge, you have friends, and you have peace. Now, you are truly wealthy." Aiden smiled back, a big, genuine smile of pure, radiant happiness. For the first time in his entire life, he felt rich. He had finally learned that to invest in yourself is to invest in your future, your joy, and your peace. And that, indeed, is the greatest treasure of all. Motivation life lesson from this story. This story carries a profound message about how we view value, wealth, and our own lives. In a world that often tells us to collect material things, Aiden and Amos show us what it truly means to be rich. Here are the key motivational life lessons from their story that you can apply to your own journey. 1. You are your greatest asset. Aiden thought his wealth was hidden in boxes under his bed. But when he got sick, that money couldn't heal him on its own. Amos understood the real truth. The most valuable thing you own is yourself. The lesson: money can be lost, stolen, or spent, but your mind, your health, and your talents belong to you forever. No one can take away a skill you have mastered or a book you have truly understood. When you improve yourself, you automatically improve your ability to handle whatever life throws at you. 2. Health is the true foundation of wealth. Aiden starved his body and lived in a cold, damp house just to save coins. In the end, his neglect cost him double what it should have. He realized too late that a massive bank account is completely useless if you are too sick to get out of bed. The lesson: do not trade your health for wealth. Skipping meals, losing sleep, and ignoring stress just to get ahead will eventually catch up to you. Taking care of your body through good food, rest, and medical care isn't an expense. It is the baseline protection for your entire life. 3. The power of investing in yourself. Amos spent his money on books, tools, and teachers. To a miser, this looked like waste. But Amos was growing his capacity. Because he learned carpentry, reading, and herbal medicine, his value to the village grew, and so did his income. The lesson: whenever you spend time or money to learn a new skill, take a course, read a book, or practice a craft, you are leveling up your value. The more skills you have, the more doors will open for you. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. 4. True wealth requires balance. Aiden thought being rich meant having the biggest pile of coins. By the end of the story, he learned that true wealth is a puzzle with multiple pieces. The true wealth checklist. Health: a strong, energetic body. Wisdom: a mind that is curious and constantly learning. Connection: friends, neighbors, and a community that cares about you. Financial security: savings to protect you, not to control you. If you have millions of dollars but are lonely, sick, and miserable, you are spiritually poor. True success is finding the perfect balance between saving for tomorrow and living meaningfully today. 5. It is never too late to change. The most beautiful part of the story is that Aiden didn't stay stuck. Even though he had wasted decades living as a miser, he had the humility to look at a younger man, admit he was wrong, and ask for help. He learned to read and write as an old man and completely rebuilt his life. The lesson: it does not matter how long you have been walking down the wrong path. You can always turn around. If you have neglected your health, stopped learning, or isolated yourself from others, today is the perfect day to start fresh. Your past does not define your future capacity to grow. Final thought to remember: do not live your life like Aiden's early years, burying your treasure in the dirt. Be like Amos. Feed your mind, protect your body, sharpen your skills, and share your joy with the world. That is how you become truly wealthy. Learn English from this story. This story is a fantastic tool for improving your English. It uses a mix of everyday descriptive words and advanced vocabulary related to life, money, and choices. Here is a structured guide to help you learn English from the story of Aiden and Amos. 1. Key vocabulary and synonyms. Learning these specific words from the story will help you describe people, habits, and actions more accurately. Miser, noun, meaning a person who loves money but hates spending it. How to use: the old man was such a miser that he refused to turn on the lights. Neglect, verb, meaning to fail to take care of something or someone. How to use: if you neglect your plants, they will dry up and die. Asset, noun, meaning something valuable that you own or a useful quality. How to use: her ability to speak 3 languages is a great asset at work. Wanderer, noun, meaning a person who travels from place to place without a fixed home. How to use: the wanderer traveled across Europe with just a backpack. Nutritious, ADJ, meaning food that is healthy and good for your body. How to use: fresh fruits and vegetables are highly nutritious. Idle, AJ, meaning not working, not active, or doing nothing. How to use: the machine sat idle in the factory during the holiday. 2. Idioms and expressions. The story contains common phrases that native English speakers use every day. To fall back on, meaning to have a backup plan or something to use when you're in trouble. Example and story: you have no skills to fall back on. Everyday usage: it is good to save money, so you have something to fall back on if you lose your job. To pay off, meaning to result in success or bring a good reward after hard work. Example and story. Amos's investments in himself started to pay off. Everyday usage. All those hours of studying finally paid off when she passed the exam. Take a toll on, meaning to cause damage, suffering, or wear and tear over time. Example and story. Drinking bad water for years took a heavy toll on his body. Everyday usage. Working late nights without sleep will eventually take a toll on your health. 4. Pronunciation and reading practice. To improve your speaking and accent, read these 2 short lines from a story aloud. Focus on the words in bold to practice your tone and emphasis. The best investment anyone can make is in themselves. Money comes and goes, but skills, knowledge, and health stay with you. Your turn to practice. Can you try writing a sentence using the word asset or the phrase pay off? Try it out in your mind or write it down to test your learning. Final thoughts. Aiden learned his lesson the hard way, but we don't have to. Remember, money is just a tool. It is meant to serve you, to protect you, and to help you grow. Don't let it sit idle in the dirt while you neglect your health or your mind. I want to ask you a question today. What is one small investment you're going to make in yourself this week? Are you going to read a new book, learn a new skill, or finally take that rest your body needs? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story brought value to your day, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss our weekly life lessons. Thank you so much for watching. Keep investing in your future, and I will see you in the next story.